One late night in Paris, Driss is at the wheel, driving his employer Philippe through the city. Traffic slows everything to a crawl, and boredom sets in. To shake off the tedium, Driss steps on the gas, weaving aggressively between cars and ignoring the traffic signs like they don't exist. His reckless driving quickly draws police attention, and soon blue lights are flashing behind them. Rather than show fear, Driss grins and wagers €100 that he can shake the police. He takes a risky route under a bridge, and for a moment it seems he's escaped. But then squad cars box them in from both sides. Still calm, Driss ups the ante and bets €200 that he can turn this nightmare into something better. He insists he can get them an escort instead of a ticket. When officers order him out of the car, Driss launches into an act. He puts on an offended face and tells them that Philippe cannot move and that they are rushing him to the hospital. The cops check the trunk and find a wheelchair there. Approaching Philippe, they observe him convulsing, a performance that Driss and Philippe execute to sell the ruse. Convinced it is a real emergency, the officers drop the speeding charge and offer to escort them to the hospital. As soon as the police are no longer in earshot, Driss celebrates, blasting September by Earth, Wind and Fire, and he and Philippe smoke a cigarette together before Driss drives off again, evading the hospital crew who would have otherwise stopped them. Their connection didn't begin with this stunt. It goes back months earlier when Philippe and his assistant Magali were interviewing candidates to find a new caregiver. The interviews are going terribly. Applicants give stiff, rehearsed answers or get visibly uncomfortable. Nothing about these meetings is promising. Then Driss bursts into the room, not waiting his turn. He's not there for a job interview. He just wants someone to sign a form confirming he applied so he can continue to claim unemployment. He's blunt, a little rude, and even flirts with Magali. Rather than taking offense, Philippe finds his audaciousness entertaining and asks him to return the next day to collect the signed paperwork. That evening, Driss goes back to his modest home in a crowded neighborhood. He tries to take a bath while his younger siblings clamber in and out, and only because his older sister, Mina, manages the chaos is he able to finish. As he waits for his mother to come home, he spots Adama stepping out of a suspicious car. Adama says he's been at school, grabs his bag, and leaves again, behavior that convinces Driss something is wrong. When his mother arrives, Driss gives her a Fabergé egg he stole, telling her he's been away on vacation. She's furious. He disappeared for 6 months without calling and returns like nothing happened. Fed up with his lies and stretched thin with other children to care for, she kicks him out and tells him not to come back. That night he spends with neighborhood friends, smoking and snacking, with nowhere else to go. The next day he returns to Philippe's house to pick up his signed paper. Yvonne, the housekeeper, meets him and gives a tour of the mansion. She explains Philippe's daily schedule and shows Driss the room he could occupy, complete with his own private bathroom. Driss can't stop staring at the bathtub before he's brought to meet Philippe. Philippe hands him the signed sheet, but also offers something unexpected, a 1-month trial as his caregiver. Driss accepts, partly out of curiosity and partly for the perk of living in such a place. Philippe bets he won't last 2 weeks. After Driss moves in, he's trained on the practicalities. He learns how to keep Philippe's legs stimulated, how to lift him into and out of the wheelchair, how to bathe and dress him. The job includes intimate tasks, pulling on support stockings, dealing with personal hygiene after bathroom use, duties Driss initially complains about and swears he won't do. But as the days pass, he accepts these tasks as part of the job. One evening, while he's snacking on the roof, Philippe's daughter Elisa and her boyfriend Bastien come by, looking for a private spot. Driss refuses to share his beer and kicks them both out. He's territorial and blunt, and that no-nonsense attitude continues to characterize his time there. Driss gradually settles into the routine, though he still makes rookie mistakes at first, handing the phone to Philippe instead of holding it for him, leaving the baby monitor behind while bathing, and generally learning the ropes on the fly. He learns how to sort Philippe's mail into folders. Most letters he reads aloud for Philippe, but some, a stack of private letters, he knows to leave alone. When he finds a flyer advertising female escorts, he cheekily creates a separate file for them instead of throwing them away like he's told to. Work doesn't mean he stops having fun. Driss keeps hitting on Magali with no luck, and he sometimes rings escorts just for company. His life hasn't become a straight line of duty. One morning, Yvonne scolds him for sleeping through his alarm, and while tidying his room, discovers some dangerous-looking weapons in his bag. She doesn't call him out on it then, but the discovery hints at a past Driss doesn't want to reveal. One day on duty, Driss refuses to load Philippe into the back of a medical van, insisting the man isn't cargo. He instead takes one of the luxurious cars that remain unused. Philippe, initially skeptical and practical, soon enjoys the faster, less sterile ride, though Yvonne remains unconvinced. When they attempt to leave the building, a neighbor's car blocks the entrance, ignoring the no parking sign. Driss wastes no time. He hauls the guy out by the shirt and threatens him to move the car. Philippe is amused and impressed. Yvonne, predictably, disapproves. They visit a museum where Philippe contemplates buying a work of modern art, essentially a streak of red on a blank canvas. Driss calls it out for what he thinks it is, an overpriced smear. Later, Philippe meets a relative who warns him that Driss could be dangerous. He has a criminal record. Philippe isn't swayed. He likes Driss specifically because he doesn't show pity. He jokes with him and treats him as a person, not a patient. One night, while Driss and Yvonne are in the kitchen, they overhear Philippe dictating a letter to Magali. Yvonne turns off the baby monitor and explains that these are letters from Eleonore, a woman Philippe has been exchanging messages with. They've never met. Their relationship exists only through their written words. That night, the baby monitor crackles with odd sounds. Driss can't ignore it and goes to check. Philippe is having trouble breathing. Driss stays calm, talking him through the episode, laying a wet cloth on his face and soothing him until he quiets. When he wakes a short time later claiming he needs air, Driss wraps him in blankets, settles him into the wheelchair, and wheels him out for a stroll along the river. It's the first time in a long while Philippe has seen Paris at night. The cool air seems to soothe him. He tells Driss that medication only dulls the pain so much, he still has phantom sensations. He admits he cannot physically pleasure a woman anymore, but confides that his ears are sensitive. They bring him small pleasures when massaged. As the phantom pain flares, Driss offers him a joint. Philippe is hesitant, but after a few puffs, he relaxes and laughs, the tension lifting a little. They go to a late-night restaurant, and Philippe opens up about his past. He met his wife as students. They suffered 5 miscarriages before they adopted Elisa. After years together, his wife developed a terminal illness and eventually passed away. Philippe threw himself into risky sports and thrill-seeking. Paragliding was his escape. During one flight, bad weather caused a crash that left him with a broken spine. He says the worst part of his life now is not the chair, it's the absence of his wife. After some joking and shared moments, Philippe realizes Driss has completed his 1-month trial. He officially hires him, but asks Driss to make amends, return the Fabergé egg Driss stole. The eggs were a treasured tradition. Philippe's late wife gave him one each year. He has 25 in total to mark their life together. The next day, Driss catches up with Mina outside school. She's annoyed that he hasn't been answering her messages and tells him the police have been calling their home. After that, he finds Adama, who admits he was caught with 30 grams of drugs. Driss tries to take him to lunch to have a serious talk, but Adama refuses and hops into that same suspicious car again, frustrating Driss and leaving him worried. Back at the house, Driss sits in while Philippe dictates yet another letter to Eleonore. Driss teases him about the flowery language, saying he should be blunt and honest instead of writing in purple prose. Learning they've never exchanged photos, Driss sees the phone number in one of the letters and acts on it. He calls Eleonore, hands the phone to Philippe, and forces him to speak to her. The conversation goes well. Philippe is suddenly talking to her all the time, smiling in a way Driss hasn't seen in months. They go to the opera. Philippe is absorbed. Driss laughs at the elaborate costumes and theatricality. The next day, Driss persuades Philippe to swap images with Eleonore. He picks a candid photo of Philippe in his wheelchair. Later, though, Philippe confesses he doesn't want that to be the picture she remembers, and secretly replaces it with an older photo of himself standing. He asks Yvonne to hide the wheelchair photo in Driss's escort file, tucking it away. While painting one afternoon, Driss is interrupted by Elisa, who barges in to mock him and demand cigarettes. He loses his temper and kicks her out. He goes to complain to Philippe about her behavior. Yvonne agrees that Elisa needs discipline. Philippe promises to speak with his daughter, and Driss is surprised when Philippe says he likes the fact that Driss paints.
Time moves on, and Philippe and Driss's friendship deepens. Driss takes Philippe out to play in the snow. He brings him along when he goes for a run. Philippe buys him his first suit, and even scolds Elisa, which Driss overhears through the baby monitor with satisfaction. When Driss completes his first painting, he brings it to Magali. She slaps him when he tries to kiss her. Despite that, Philippe admires the work and vows to find a buyer. The two men share more carefree moments, speeding in better cars, sharing joints, and even recruiting escorts together for lighthearted mischief. Philippe's birthday approaches. He's not excited. Every year, distant relatives show up just to confirm he's alive. At the celebration, while guests enjoy live classical music, Driss searches for Elisa and finds her crying after swallowing a few of Yvonne's pills. It's a cry for attention more than a suicide attempt. She's devastated because Bastien dumped her and called her names. She begs Driss to confront him. Driss agrees, but not for free. Meanwhile, Philippe quietly showcases Driss's painting to a relative and manages to sell it for 11,000 euros. Later, in the drawing room, he tries to share important classical pieces with Driss. Driss jokes through it, then plugs in his iPod and plays Boogie Wonderland. He dances in the center of the room with such energy that he gets everyone to join in. Philippe watches, laughing and stunned at how alive the moment feels. That night, Driss opens the latest letter from Eleanor. She sent a photograph. She's attractive and says she'll be in Paris soon. They should meet. On the day of the meeting, Yvonne and Driss spend hours testing outfits on Philippe until they find the perfect one. Since Yvonne will accompany Philippe, Driss uses his day off to see Bastien. He intimidates him into agreeing to apologize to Elisa and to bring her croissants every day and to go fix his hair. Driss also goes to watch his mother at work, but stands at a distance, not confronting her. At the restaurant, Philippe and Yvonne wait for Eleanor. An hour goes by. Philippe's courage fails him. He calls Driss and asks to be taken away. He leaves without seeing Eleanor, unaware she has just arrived. That same night, Philippe surprises Driss by taking him on his private plane to the countryside and gifting him the money from the painting sale. Driss is ecstatic. The next morning, Philippe decides to paraglide, and though Driss panics at first, he ultimately loses his fear and enjoys the ride. When they return, Adama waits, with a scar on his face. Driss scolds him about the mark and the trouble he's in, but Adama won't open up. Later, during a quiet conversation, Philippe asks Driss about his past. Reluctant at first, Driss reveals the truth. Adama isn't his biological brother, and the people he calls parents are actually an aunt and uncle. They took him from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't have children. His birth name was Bakari Bassari. Because another child already had that name, they called him Idris, which shortened to Driss. As new children were born into the family over the years, Driss felt more like an outsider than a son. Philippe listens and then delivers a tough kind of love. He says Adama needs structure and discipline, and that Driss can't spend his life caring for him and ignoring his family. The implication is clear: go home and take responsibility. The next morning, Bastien shows up with croissants and a better haircut. Driss packs his bags and prepares to leave. Magali comes to say goodbye. Driss attempts one last flirt, only to be introduced to her partner, Fred, short for Frederic. As Driss watches them together, Driss realizes Magali isn't interested in men and accepts it with a smile. On his way out, he hands the baby monitor back to Yvonne and teases her for misleading him about Magali just to get a reaction. In return, Yvonne gives him the escort folder he'd started. Driss tosses the folder away, but slips the photograph he liked into his pocket. Outside, a car blocks the entry again, and even though he's no longer employed there, Driss demands the driver move it. When Adama calls him out, Driss tells him it's about principle. He's not doing it for the job, he's doing it because it's right. A few hours later, Driss and Adama go to the station to collect their mother, signaling that Driss is trying to rebuild family ties. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, the new caretaker is stiff and unfunny. Philippe refuses to eat dinner with him and walks out. With Yvonne off on a date with the gardener, there's no one to scold Philippe for leaving. Life at the mansion without Driss grows dull. Driss, on the other hand, returns to his old life. He reconnects with his friends and tells the men in the suspicious car to stop bothering Adama. He attends a job interview for which he lacks experience, but he sells himself as pragmatic and leans on the cultural and art knowledge he learned while working for Philippe. He gets a job as a driver. Philippe, however, struggles with the new caretaker. He's irritable and increasingly withdrawn. One night, when Philippe experiences phantom pain and refuses help, Yvonne calls Driss. He comes back, and that brings us full circle. We return to the opening. Driss behind the wheel, speeding through Paris with Philippe beside him, taking the police chase head-on. After the chaotic pursuit and the police escort to the hospital, Driss drives Philippe to the sea. The ocean calms Philippe. The waves soothe him in a way that the city cannot. Later, Driss trims Philippe's overgrown beard and drops him at a restaurant for lunch. He doesn't stay. Before he leaves, he returns the Fabergé egg, a gesture of respect and closure. Philippe grows anxious, but when he looks up, he sees who's approaching: Eleanor. She smiles genuinely and doesn't bat an eye at his wheelchair. They sit, they talk, and for once, Philippe feels seen. In real life, Count Philippe Pozo de Borgo later moved to Morocco, remarried, and had 2 daughters. Driss, whose real name is Abdel Yasmin Selou, built his own company, married, and had 3 children. The 2 men remain close friends to this day.